Your favorite Aussie fighter? You didn't even know it was Aussie.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your main event.
Live from HBF Stadium Festival Hall. Melbourne Pavilion.
Not even backstage, we're literally outside. Was that the best fight card in Australian MMA history?
Call me crazy, but make sure you call me when I'm right.
Be good if the Aussie MMA Instagram page would give us a bit of glow up because we're killing
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Australian MMA podcast. My name is Mitch Tinley, and today's guest is a 6'8" man full of muscle, Charles Joyner. He's joining us on the show. There you go. Enjoy that one. He is British passported. He grew up in Australia and he's now competing in Cage Warriors, a very well-known mixed martial arts promotion, probably the most well-known in Europe. It's created, your Paddy Pimlets, Conor McGregor's, some absolute superstars in the sport. Charles Joyner learned his trade in Sydney. He used to train with the likes of Tai Tuivasa and, it's Caleb Rideout. He's kind of mixed it up with all those boys. So he's very ingrained in Australia. And during COVID, he sort of dug deep and just took the chance and went overseas and took his British passport and thought, yep, let's go train and try and turn this into a career. And he embraces the Aussie culture. You can see him, he wears the cork hat when he walks out. And I think it's Cage Warriors 176, September 7th. He takes on Brandon Guest. And like I said, 6'8" striker, very entertaining guy. He's got walk-off body shots. It's just beautiful to watch him fight. And I think it's about time we get around it because I'll be honest, I'm really solely focused on the dudes that are in Australia. I don't notice the guys that have already left and are flying our flag. And I think we really need to do a better job of supporting every single Aussie and every single person that is flying our flag in this sport. So before we hear from our great friends at PRP Global, and then on the other side, we're going to hear from a man that you probably didn't know before, and you will now. He's an incredible prospect. Like I said, 6'8", devastating striker. He's Australian. We're going to claim him. It's like Russell Crowe. He's New Zealander, but if he does well, he's ours. And right now, Charles Joyner is doing incredibly well. So he's as Aussie as can be. Ladies and gentlemen, Charles Joyner.
Fuel the fight with Australian-made MMA-inspired streetwear and support the next generation of MMA superstars. Delivering unprecedented support to the Aussie MMA scene, support PRP Global on their journey. 100% of profits go to the fighters. Check PRP Global out today.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the show, Charles Joyner. Mate, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you're a sneaky little Australian in Australian MMA. You've snuck away from the country to sort of build a career, mixed martial arts career elsewhere. First off, for people that have no idea, kind of there was a Charles Joyner around and thought they were pretty into Australian MMA, why did you kind of make the jump?
Yeah, so it was during lockdown in 2021 when the extreme lockdowns hit around the country, and didn't really know what the future was going to be for fights. And I heard a lot of things where people were just saying, gyms won't be open for years. We won't be able to have fight show for years. And I've got a British passport, and the UK had just opened up, and I could see, people were having fights in the UK. There were gyms where people were training. So I just thought, I'm just going to go and just see what happens. I was only kickboxing at the time, so I just started by, training kickboxing and having a few kickboxing fights. Sort of quickly did pretty well with my kickboxing here. Ended up fighting for world titles in America and Rome on fairly big shows. And then at the same time, I was training MMA, and then made my debut last year on the local scene here.
Interesting. So why sort of venture to mixed martial arts as opposed to just sticking around in kickboxing?
I think it's probably the same as, a lot of people say. It's just MMA is where the future is. There's not massive money in kickboxing. There's not massive exposure. And there's always, that little ego thing of, you could be the best kickboxer in the world, but you could potentially get beaten off an amateur MMA fighter that's been training for a year, that's got a bit of grappling, which I quickly found out when I started training MMA, and guys that have been training for a few months were just taking me down and submitting me. So Yeah, that is it's partly, makes sense career wise when you're trying to, make a name for yourself and make some money, but then also probably ego a little bit as well.
And how long were you in Australia for?
So since I was moved there when I was 10, and then um so then 26 when I left, so 16 years. But Australia's still home. Like I go back every year, my family's there. I think of myself as Australian and English, so it's I'm getting the best of both worlds at the moment.
Well, most people in Australia are normally English backpackers anyway. So, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
we're basically becoming that. And you rock the like the Akubra with the corks. So at the end of the day, that checks out
Yeah,
to me.
that's it. That's everyone loves an Aussie. Everyone loves an Aussie, so you gotta use it.
Is that part of it? Are you like, man, if I'm just like a UK guy, I'm not going to get fights. But if I'm the Aussie in UK, they'll book me.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's it's bringing something different. It's bringing something different, isn't it? Because there's not been too many Aussies in cage roys. There's Jack Della had a fight there. I know. Joel Downey Cave was had a few fights in cage roys. I'm sure there's probably a few others, but it's also it's where my fighting career started as well, and where I've done most of my developing. So I do feel like patriotic to Australia as well.
Well, I mean, where did it all start in Australia? How did the martial arts career begin?
It was literally probably one of the most cliched answers, but it was like the rise of Conor McGregor just got me into training, and I just thought, oh, I just want to give this a go. Didn't ever think I was going to fight, and just joined a pretty commercial gym in Australia at the time. Didn't have too many fighters, but I think I got really lucky because the coach who I had, his name's Adrian Adozada, and the gym's called Evolution Gym. Just really open minded, but like really had a lot of knowledge, but just hadn't really pushed a fight team. And then he sort of trained me and developed me how he thinks a 6'8" guy should kickbox, and it ended up being really effective. And I was undefeated in kickboxing in Australia, and I think of myself as I was one of the top guys before I came over here, and largely like thanks to him and just how he taught me to fight.
And was it always like as soon as you started training, you were like, man, I want a career in this, or?
It was probably after I had my first fight. I just thought, I was obviously loving the training, but I only started training when I was, just about to turn 21. And you just obviously think, with other sports, if you're getting into a sport at that age, there's just no chance you're going to have a career in it. But then you sort of realize after a bit of training and understanding the sport a bit more, I realized that fighting was different and you could start later and, have a successful career in it. So it's probably after the first fight, I just thought, oh, I just want to do this. I just love this.
Well, I mean, at 6'8", why aren't you playing like footy or basketball?
I don't know. If I was good enough, I probably would. More money.
Did you ever sort of dabble in other sports?
Yeah. I always played sports growing up. I played basketball, obviously, and I get asked that every day. Do you play basketball? And I did high jump. Funnily enough, that was another one. And like soccer, I played football as well. That was I always loved soccer. But yeah, those are probably the three main ones that I did. I did swimming when I was younger, but I sort of I found that pretty boring, so I packed that in. But
Were you like a run amok around the street, kind of getting in fights as a kid, or?
nah, literally no street fights, nothing like that. Or try to stay out of trouble. Never had a fight in my life, so you can imagine the first few sparring sessions and fights were pretty stressful. But I don't know. It was like it was as soon as I don't know. I found it really stressful and nerve wracking, but I sort of liked that it was challenging myself that much, and it didn't feel natural. And then now, obviously, being fairly experienced, it's a completely different feeling now when I fight. But I think that's what drew it to me as well, just the challenge that it was.
Did you enjoy the sort of showman aspect then, seeing as Conor McGregor was kind of your guy, and you don't sound like you had too much like pent up anger as a kid? Was it the almost theatrics, the show of mixed martial arts that drew you in?
Yeah, I think I think that's definitely a factor in it, because even like the last walkout on Cage Warriors when I did the cork hat, like you said, and the come from a land down under, and I felt like that got a pretty good reception, and loads of people were talking to me about it over here. I just love stuff like that as well as the fight, and then obviously with the finishes, and if you can make the finish look cool and do and have a cool highlight. It's all stuff like that. It's not obviously it's like you say, it's not the pent up anger or the violence. It's the art of it, probably the whole aspect.
Yeah, I do feel like that's kind of like where the sport is going as well, which I like. We're kind of finding this happy medium now where there's like some slightly angry people, but they know how to put on a show. Because at the end of the day, that's kind of what I feel has boxing above MMA, is that people wear like suits to boxing. It's like this ball where for a while
Yeah.
MMA was like the local RSL, or if people aren't aware what an RSL is. It's like a dingy pub, but like
Yeah.
it was like that where it's like I feel like I like stories like yours where it's not like I was on the streets. It's just kind of like I like the sport and I like where it's going. Do you like how you've kind of been received by fans, promoters, sort of other fighters? Do you like sort of the character you're building, if you will?
Yeah. I think so. I do feel like it's I think any good character is just and sort of persona is just an extension of yourself and like an exaggeration of yourself. So I think I'm a pretty confident guy, and the other thing as well probably that plays into it is like being 6'8", I just have people just looking at me all the time, and it's like, well, I might as well be doing something cool if people are going to look at me anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing as well. So I think I'm used to. I'm as probably corny as that sounds, I'm used to having eyes on me, because it literally is like if you're walking around with me, it's like people that aren't used to it go like, "Oh, bro, everyone is staring at you when we're walking." Like and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." You get used to it, but it does help with that, having eyes on you when you're doing something else, when you're performing.
Have you kept an eye on the Australian product at all on the regional scene?
Yeah. Often, when the good thing is it'll often be a Saturday afternoon, and Eternal will be on UFC Fight Pass. So I'll just chuck that on. And I've obviously got loads of mates that are in the regional scene, and I know quite a few people. So yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye on it and keep my finger on the pulse.
So who are you close with?
Yeah, I used to train with Joel Kendrick, who's going to make a comeback soon. Emil Jerry's, who's
Yeah.
good mates with him. I trained with him last time I was there. Yeah, I was good mates with Bam Bam. I was in his corner for the Struve fight, if you can believe that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was on Fight Island, which was cool. Tyson, he's retired now. Tyson Pedro, I was good mates with as well. Trained with quite a lot. Like Caleb Rideouts, Lachlan Stitt. Yeah, don't leave out any names. I mean, I train at Ethos Performance as well. So I mean, you just meet so many people there that are on the scene, like amateurs as well. So I know what's going on, and I know I'm sort of always just watching and just yeah.
Does it feel weird? Because I feel like there's two different ways this could go. You could kind of have two homes where you're beloved by Australians, beloved by like people in the UK and whatnot, but it kind of almost feels like it's almost like the Australians haven't fully jumped on the Joyner train yet. And it's like, do you kind of feel like, where is your kind of allegiance?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a funny one. I feel like it's like it seems like a unique situation, which I think is cool as well. Yeah, I think like you say, it could, you could either get the allegiance of both
or none,
and everyone jumps on, or you could ostracize yourself from both.
Yeah,
where you're not really fully English, but you're not really fully Aussie. It's I don't know. I like to think that I start winning, and guys like you help promote my name a bit, and then people get around it a little bit more. Obviously, the people that I know in Australia get around it, and then when I come back at Christmas each year and get a bit of training in, and everyone's supportive, and So, but in terms of, I don't know, I genuinely feel like my whole life obviously I was born in England, got a British passport. Then you know, we moved around a bit, and then I moved to Australia when I was 10, and all those growing up, all that growing up teenager, like early 20s was in Australia. So I feel I've always felt like I'm both,
Oh,
like an allegiance to both.
yeah. Well, without a doubt, if you've hung out with Bam Bam, I mean, that counts. You're as
Like,
Australian as it can be.
that's it. That's a passport in itself, isn't
No,
it?
it's good, and like, full disclosure as well. Like, I'm really glad that you reached out, because I do weirdly, like, I just started because I just wanted to talk shit to some fighters, and then all of a sudden this has kind of turned into something even bigger than even I thought. And so I appreciate when guys like yourself reach out, because you don't get necessarily the spotlight that you probably deserve, but sort of like any Aussie kind of, we want to find a way to support. So I think it's really good. And I think that's, to see you kind of doing what you're doing in Cage Warriors, I feel like it at least inspires me to kind of get behind you a little bit more as well. So I do appreciate that. And of course, even just what you've just said with your love for Australia, it's really cool. And I think it is unique, and hopefully we can spin it from having no one love you to having them both.
Well, I'd like to think, yeah, that's it. Well, I'd like to think a few people love me anyway. I think
No, it is. It's really,
no one loved you.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you.
Nobody cared. No, they did care. They did care. They cared immensely. And I think, look, all you had to do was chuck on a cork hat, and you get me immediately. I'm like, he's
Yeah,
as
yeah.
true blue as can be.
Yeah.
Do you get any shit for being an Aussie?
Nah, no one. That's not a thing. I don't think that's a thing. But like, literally, you get shit for being English.
Yeah.
They're like, you don't like, it's definitely being English in Australia, you get shit. But being Australian in England, it's like the only thing you probably got shit for was like the lockdowns and how strict COVID was,
Oh,
and all
really?
stuff like that. Yeah, I think just because they just sort of saw Australia as a bit of a police state, and that was probably the only thing really. But other than that, everyone just loves you. I think if you're Australian.
They could bloody talk. They sent us out here. We were the
I know,
criminals.
exactly. I know. They made the police state, didn't they?
So they don't. There's no like, shrimp on the barbie, mate. None of that shit.
Yeah, you get that, but it's all people just trying to mock the accent, don't they? It's like
Which you
like,
don't
"G'day,
even
mate."
have.
Yeah. Well, here they think I sound Australian, but
Really?
that's the thing.
Oh.
But then in England, in Australia they think I sound English. So it's
Well, I mean, like you said, you mentioned Bam Bam. Do you have a bit of an Eshe accent as well? Or?
I can put it on when I need to. So the dogs are going crazy. I don't know.
That's right. What's worse, Australian Eshes or like the stabby Brits I see on TV shows?
Oh, definitely the stabby, the chavs, the stabby Brits. Definitely the chavs.
Well, that's
But like Eshes are quite relaxed compared to them.
Yeah. What do you miss about Australia?
I mean, obviously, the obvious ones are the weather. I think just I don't know. I think there's great things about the UK, but it's just Australia is just it is like a paradise when you're there. My girlfriend's from the UK, and then first time she came to Australia was with me 2 years ago, and she just absolutely loves it. Like, just thinks it's unbelievable. So obviously just and I mean, like, majority of my friends are in Australia. Yeah, I think obviously just the obvious things like that, really, probably. Yeah.
I like that this has turned into the classic, like, so do you like Vegemite? No, but it's good. It's good. I like kind of learning more, like I said, about the Aussies that are out there doing well. How did you get signed to Cage Warriors? Because that is quite a prize in itself.
Yeah. So I'm based in the northeast of England, which is Newcastle, Sunderland, Durham, those sort of areas, and Cage Warriors were doing a show in Newcastle, and yeah, just I think I fought middleweight last year, and that was a mistake. But so I had 3 fights in middleweight last year. But um, yeah, they were just, my coach just put forward, oh, I've got a light heavyweight here. Have you got anything for him? And then, they had a look at me and then were quite keen to get me on. Obviously, striking background, and then, the 6'8" thing from Australia, and yeah, all my wins have been by finish. So I think they were quite keen to get me on. The guy that I'm fighting this time, I was originally matched up with, and he pulled out, and then they got me this 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 big Italian. He was about 6'6", and so they were pretty keen to get me on. Even when my initial fight fell through, they worked hard to get me another fight, and then yeah, I think just because it was local, sell a few tickets, and then obviously it went well. They promoted me quite a bit afterwards, and then they wanted me to fight on the Newcastle show, which is happening at the end of November this year. And I said, yeah, I'll do that, but I also want to have another one before then. So then that's how this Glasgow fight came about.
That's cool. And yeah, I mean, you're taking up against a guy I believe is a debutant. So it's like,
Yeah.
what's that like? I mean, there's obviously a bit of pressure on you in the MMA sense, but like, do you know much about his other sort of combat experience?
Yeah, I mean, he had a successful amateur career. I think he was 7-2, but we liked the matchup, and I think when we looked through his fights, he hadn't really, his wins weren't against anyone decent, and I think when he lost, they were against, they were when he fought someone decent. And I mean, his last fight was 18 months ago, and he got knocked out in it. It was in the IMF, so it was a decent opponent. But I've just been, my thought process on it was I was pretty offended that he thinks he can make a pro debut against me, especially coming off a knockout, and not fighting for 18 months. I just thought, either he's super confident or he just doesn't care about his career. But that's how I felt about it.
No, that's fair. Or you got to look at Cage Warriors. Are they feeding him to you, or do they not care about you?
Yeah, that's it. Are you the A side? Are you the B side? It's
I always talk about that, man, but people don't like to bring that up. There is never a fight, I reckon, ever, where they're like A and A. Let's see what happens. There's always like the promotion's like, we kind of want this guy to win.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, I think they probably have a plan, like a sort of a rough idea of what will happen if either person wins, but they'll definitely have someone that they want to win. And I'll say they want me to win because they've been posting me. They want me to fight on Newcastle again. So, and I'm better looking. I'm Australian. It's just, why wouldn't you want me to win?
Exactly. Now, mate, tell us about the family. They support this dream, this venture.
Yeah. So at first, they definitely didn't when I first got into it, but yeah, now they couldn't be more supportive now. So my mum's actually visiting from Australia, and she's never actually seen me. She's never seen me fight live. She's never been to a fight, but she's coming to this one in Glasgow. So this will be her first fight. So yeah, fully supportive now.
Is she pissed you went back? She's like, we tried so hard to get out of the UK.
Yeah, that's what she said. That was she said it was her karma because she left her parents when she was young to travel, and then I'm doing the exact same thing. But yeah, so but no, she couldn't be more supportive. Do
you have brothers, sisters?
No, only child.
Oh,
it's a lot of pressure on me.
And the standard question coming, is your dad tall?
I'll tell you, I definitely always thought he was tall when I was younger. I feel like he doesn't look tall compared to me now. He's probably just under 6'3", so fairly tall, but not. I just sort of, just a bit of an outlier, I'd say.
Jeez, mate, you thought you were going to get into an interview and you're like, this guy knows MMA. We'll talk about the sport. I'm like, nah, how tall are you? Core cats.
Is your dad tall? Basketball?
I've asked every question I've ever hated. But look, they're important. Now, in terms of, believe you're 29. I mean, that's a good age still. I mean, what's sort of the goals in terms of mixed martial arts? Are we wanting to get to the UFC? Are we kind of what's the grand plan?
Yeah. UFC's the goal, and the sort of the plan is next year to get into the UFC, whether that be, it doesn't happen as much these days, but getting directly signed or through the Contender Series next year. So, 2 good wins this year to finish out the year, and a couple more finishes, and I think I'll be in a pretty good position, because I think I do bring something different to the table. And there's not many light heavyweights in the UK or the Australian scene. So
I could have told you that. I could have told you to leave years ago. There's, I think, 2 light heavyweights,
yeah,
and you would have been one of them. Like, there's literally there's not a whole lot. And is that kind of, do you struggle to find fights just in general? Like you said, you had to take a fair few at middleweight and whatnot. Is being a light heavyweight quite tricky?
So middleweight was, when I was younger, I could make middleweight fairly easily. And I always had this thing of, I'll just be this like freakishly big middleweight, And I thought that'd be a cool selling point for the UFC as well, like a 6'8" middleweight. But I think I just kept on, as I've got older, I've just been getting bigger, and it just became, I made them never miss weight, but it was just, camp wasn't enjoyable. And I felt you're not having your best performances when you're just focusing on, making weight. But light heavyweight just feels so much better. And yeah, I think in terms of finding fights, that was one of the good things about over here, is that you just have so many more options. You're much closer to Europe, you're much closer to America. And in Australia, it's like it's you either have to fight the local guys, and then what if they won't fight you? Which I was struggling a bit in kickboxing to get matchups, and then or you've got to travel massive distances, which isn't good for your performance. So it's definitely a lot easier here, and even say the last time on Cage Warriors, this guy pulled out, and they just went into Europe and just searched around Europe and found someone, which you couldn't really, you don't really have those options in Australia.
No, it's cool, because I feel like you would have had to fight like anyone in Europe that's your size would have been like the descendant of a Viking leader or something.
Yeah,
like
something like that. Yeah.
So if you weren't doing mixed martial arts, mate, what would you be doing?
Well, I've actually got a law degree, so
Get fucked. Really?
yeah, I do. So, yeah, I do.
Not that I don't believe you. That's, I look at you and I went, that guy's got a law degree. But so you're obviously smart. What are you doing walking away from that to go get punched in the head?
So maybe I'm not too smart then. But no, I think it's just I did it. I'd say I enjoyed studying, but then when I went and sort of did some placement stuff, I just realized I didn't really want to have that life. And I just thought, we've got one life. I'm gonna have I've got the degree. I'm gonna have a crack at this while I'm young, and just go for it and just see how far I can get. And I know I can do whatever I like afterwards, really. So I'm just gonna have a crack and just make it happen.
What's your hex spell like?
Oh, don't even want to think about that.
And in terms of like Cage Warriors, I mean, I know you're not making a killing, but is Cage Warriors money like okay?
Yeah, it's decent. It's decent. It's better obviously than the other regional scene. You wouldn't want to spend your whole quick career in Cage Warriors, but I think for that, that pathway to the UFC, it's probably the best money you're going to get.
Are you juggling like PTs and all that sort of stuff as well, or?
Yeah, just coaching when I need to, and then just sponsors and just trying to live within my means, not blow the budget.
Just offering legal advice on the side.
That's it. That's it.
All right, mate. Before I let you go, tell us a little bit about what we can expect against Brendan Guest, this Cage Warriors in Glasgow.
Yeah, I think how I see it going is I think the first round's going to be pretty intense because I think he's going to come in with a lot of nerves. I think it's a big step up for him, and he's going to come in with a lot of nerves. And I imagine he's going to want to try and stand with me, but then quickly realize he can't. So I think I'll be defending some takedowns, but I think I'll, as I usually do, I'll break them down and finish him, whether it's in the first round or the second round. And I think it will be. I'm liking the walk-off body shots at the moment. That's something different as well, a walk-off body shot. I don't think there's not too many people that do that.
Well, there was over the weekend, I was watching an amateur fight and a kid got disqualified for headbutts to the body. So
headbutts. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
To the body. Like, I was like,
Right.
have you ever seen it?
No. That's I wouldn't even think to do that. That's
No.
something you do when you're fighting with like with a mate and you just get fuming and you just start trying to hit him with anything.
Yeah, no. So I want, walk off body shot and then just finish him with a little.
Some headbutts after.
No, mate. Well, it's been an honor to have you on the show, and obviously I really appreciate you reaching out. And you're actually going to get pissed off how much I'm going to fly the Charles Joyner flag now that you've broken the ice.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, mate. 6'8". If you guys have just joined the interview, I don't know how that's possible, but it's a 6'8" guy. He wears cork hat. He played basketball. Law degree. Cage Warriors gonna smash some guy. Right? I think we did it. I think we did it all.
That wraps it up.
All right, mate. Oh, no, wait. Finally, before I do let you go, after it's all said and done, how does Charles Joyner want to be remembered in mixed martial arts?
Ooh, just that big Aussie guy that doesn't know if he's Aussie or he's English, really.
Oh, mate, first time on the show. It definitely won't be the last. Thank you so much for reaching out. And everyone's going to get behind you as soon as I can figure out the time zone on which time the fight's on. I'll let everyone know.
Yeah. Awesome. Cheers, Mitchell. Thank you very much.
You're the best, brother. Thank you.